Right now, the government and the big banks are building the legal and technical framework to turn your house, your 401k, and your stocks into digital tokens so that they can use them to bail out banks when their risky bets explode. One of those bills is already law, and the second is moving through Congress. The exact wording is right there in the public records for anyone to read. I'm going to lay it all out for you in a way that I wish someone would explain it to my own mother. Links to the full laws are in the description below. A while back, I started noticing some strange things in our money system. Markets that were supposed to be watched closely weren't anymore. That made me ask a simple question: when the derivatives bubble pops, and history says it will, what will happen to your money and assets? That question led me to two new bills almost nobody is talking about. The first one was the Genius Act we covered last time. It's now law. This video is about the second piece: how they're wiring your assets, your home, your retirement, your investments, into the same system. Most of us still use cash, at least sometimes, but the new system they're building is digital dollars that live right on your phone or your card, like a supercharged Venmo. These are called stablecoins. The Genius Act says that every one of these digital dollars, called stablecoins, has to be backed by U.S. government debt. Last year, $33 trillion moved through stablecoins. That's huge. More are being created every day. Here's the part that really caught my attention when I read the Genius Act. A government agency, not necessarily a judge, can order the company to freeze your digital money, seize it, block it, or burn it so that it disappears forever. The law requires stablecoin issuing companies to build that ability into the system before they're even allowed to offer their stablecoins. If that ever happened to your money, if it was burned by the government, the money would be gone. How would you afford to fight the government in court? What if that was your family's grocery money or your rent money? Now here's the new piece that almost nobody's talking about. The second bill is called the Clarity Act, H.R. 3633. It passed the House last July and is still moving its way through the Senate right now. This one sets up the rules for tokenization, taking your house, your stocks, your 401k, and other real things into digital tokens on the same kind of system as stablecoins. BlackRock's CEO Larry Fink said last year, "We're at the beginning of tokenizing all assets." Once your house or retirement account is tokenized and set on these regulated rails, it becomes part of the same digital world. Your assets stop being fully yours in the way you assume they are. The same structure that controls digital dollars can now reach your biggest assets too. Important point: using stablecoins and tokenizing your assets is completely voluntary right now. No one is forcing you to do it. But bear with me. As history shows, less and less, over time, will you have other options. And a lot of people are going to choose it because the benefits are genuinely exciting. Imagine being able to own a slice of a beautiful rental home or prime real estate, maybe a beach condo in Florida or an apartment building in your own city, without ever having to buy the whole thing or deal with tenants and repairs. You buy just 1%, or even less, for a few hundred or a few $1,000s, and every month you automatically receive your share of the rent, deposited straight into your account. No landlord headaches, no maintenance calls at 2 a.m. At the same time, if that property appreciates in value, your small slice grows right along with it. You get both steady rental income and potential long-term appreciation, all without the usual barriers or huge down payments or complicated paperwork. That's the power of tokenization. It turns traditionally illiquid, expensive assets into something you can own in small, affordable pieces. You can diversify across 10 to 20 different properties in different cities instead of putting everything into one house. If you ever need cash, you can sell your slice in minutes on a digital marketplace instead of waiting months for a traditional sale. For everyday families and investors, this opens the door to real estate returns that used to be reserved for the wealthy. That's why so many smart people and big institutions are genuinely excited about it. It solves real problems with access, cost, and convenience. Of course, Once your assets are inside this system, the dangerous powers that I mentioned at the beginning of this video apply. But for millions of people, the benefits will feel worth it, and they might not even realize the dangers. Imagine sending money to your family across the country or around the world and having it arrive in seconds instead of days, with almost no fees. Imagine being able to sell a small slice of your house or investment property without having to sell the whole thing, giving you instant access to cash when you need it. Imagine your retirement account or stock portfolio trading 24 hours a day, settling instantly instead of waiting 3 days for the money to clear. The new system promises lower costs, faster transactions, and far more liquidity for assets that used to be stuck for years. You could own a piece of a commercial building, a piece of art, or even a slice of private equity that was previously only available to billionaires. Everything is transparent. You can see the reserves backing your stablecoins and the ownership records on the blockchain. For many families and businesses, this feels like the future. More convenient, more efficient, and more accessible than the old banking system ever was. That's why so many smart people, from everyday investors to the largest asset managers in the world, are genuinely excited about it. It solves real problems with speed, cost, and access. It's very much like credit cards. Technically, you can live without them, but in practice, life becomes harder and more expensive if you refuse. Renting an apartment, getting certain jobs, or even booking travel can be difficult without a credit history. Buying a house, renting an apartment, getting certain jobs, or even booking travel can be difficult without a credit history. The new digital money is likely to work the same way. Over the next few years, cash will become less practical in many places. Many traditional banks may struggle or change their structure dramatically. Loans and everyday transactions may increasingly require the new system. What starts as a choice can quietly become the default way to do business and live in the financial world. History shows us this repeatedly. So, while it's voluntary today, the convenience and incentives will pull most people in. And once your money and assets are inside the system, the new rules and the dangers we talked about will apply. That's why it's important to understand what you may be stepping into before you do. You may be giving up a lot of your financial and personal sovereignty without even realizing it. And when enough people do that, we effectively lose our liberty as a nation. It'll just slide away like the sands of time in an hourglass. It begs the question, when the big derivatives bubble finally pops and the government needs to bail out the banks, what actually happens to your money, your house, your 401k, and your stocks once they are turned into digital tokens? Let's assume several years from now, the system is fully mature and most money and assets are in these new rails. The Genius Act requires every stablecoin to be backed one-to-one with cash or short-term U.S. treasuries. That's why the government pushed this law. They created billions of new forced buyers for their debt. When the bubble pops and the panic sets in, regulators can issue a lawful order to freeze your stablecoins, block any transfers, or even burn them so the money disappears forever. They can also limit withdrawals, called redemptions in the new system, in unusual and exigent circumstances. That means your stablecoins get locked. You can't spend them, you can't send them, or turn them back into cash. Now, on the layer of the Clarity Act, once your house, 401k, or stocks are tokenized on the same system, the same pause button works there too. You can still legally own your house and your retirement on paper, but suddenly your tokenized assets are locked. You can't sell or borrow against your tokenized house equity or your 401k when it is temporarily unavailable for system stability. It's likely that the disadvantages all happen at once for most of us. The money you use every day and the life savings you worked decades to build, the assets that you own, suddenly are not accessible to you. The government calls it temporary measures to protect the financial system. For you and your family, it means your money and assets are frozen at the exact moment you need them most, while the banks get breathing room. You are just waiting. So you can see, in a sense, tokenizing is a lot like a deal with the devil. You get a lot of benefits, but there is a steep price that will come around eventually. You might keep that in mind. Why are they doing this? There are two big reasons for this system that can be seen in the text of the new laws. First, the government needs buyers for all its borrowing, and America has lost credibility as a nation. This system creates automatic demand for U.S. debt, despite our untrustworthy government, which we detailed in the last video. Link in the description. It's well worth watching. Second, the big banks have enormous side bets on the economy. When those bets go bad, and they will sooner or later, this new digital infrastructure gives them a way to move money and assets around quickly to keep things stable. Your tokenized house or 401k could end up being part of that safety net without you ever being asked. Will it actually work? In our current situation, highly doubtful. I'll be discussing that in a future video. Now let's talk about how someone could get cut off from this system. Imagine waking up one day and not being able to buy gas or groceries. Maybe because you spoke out against this new economic system, like I'm doing right now. An agency order causes your digital money and your tokenized assets to freeze or disappear. There doesn't need to be a financial emergency for them to pause, seize, or burn your money, as per the text of the law. Stores have been increasingly turning down cash. If everything moves to this new system, there is no backup. And then there is no safeguard for your money. This happened in Canada in 2022 to regular people who donated to support protests against the government. This new system just makes it much easier for the government to punish you for protests or saying things they do not like, and infinitely harder for you to escape once you're in this new system. Reading these new bills left me with some big questions. Will this system prevent future bubbles? Unlike in the past, bubbles are becoming existential threats to civilization, something I will explain in a future video. Once this system becomes the main way we do business, it will not prevent future bubbles. The same forces that create all bubbles, massive leverage, easy money, and the pressure to keep growing, will still be there. Arguably, the new tools of the system might help manage the next crisis, but they won't stop it from happening. Will this new economic system be able to withstand the derivatives bubble implosion when it happens? We are already on the edge of that bubble popping. It's hard to imagine it won't pop for another few years while they build this system and onboard the majority of institutions and people. During the build-out phase, there is no protection from the implosion of the derivatives bubble. But even after this new system is developed, I argue there's no protection, and I'll explain that in an upcoming video. On a personal level, you might ask yourself these questions. How much of your life do you want tied to a system that can take total control of your money and assets at any time? Will it be realistically feasible to live in this country while opting out of this system entirely? Is there a happy middle ground that you can maintain? The comfort, convenience, and benefits of the new system will be seductive and powerful. And those aspects will blind many of us to the fact that we are willingly giving up our sovereignty. The government effectively owns us once we are all in, and the avenues of escape no longer exist. So now you know what the benefits are and the price you will pay for joining this new system. It is fast and convenient, but it also takes control from you and gives it to them. Regarding your freedoms, it's not too late to defend them. Laws can be amended. Share this with people you love. We will figure this out together. In the next video, I will lay out scenarios about what would happen if the derivatives bubble pops under this new system. Please subscribe to watch it when it comes out. It will be eye-opening. And remember, prepare for hard times. Prepare to help your neighbors help their neighbors. That is the only true way to a better future.